NFL Network presents America's Game, a countdown of the 20 greatest Super Bowl champions. And now, number 15. In 1971, Disney World opened its doors in Orlando. All in the Family made its television debut. And in the same year Phyllis George won Miss America, Mr. Cowboy was celebrating his 10th year with the team. Bob Lilly was Dallas's first ever draft pick, and he had seen the franchise grow from laughingstock into legitimate contender.
1965 was the first year that we broke out of the losing column. We were picked, I think, to win the Eastern Division. We ended up 7-7, which was a pretty good step for us. In 1966, we did think we'd be in the hunt and ended up playing Green Bay in the Cotton Bowl for the opportunity to go to the first Super Bowl.
Coming up 1 yard short against Green Bay was the first in a series of bitter disappointments. The following year, Dallas lost the Ice Bowl and lost their second straight championship game to the Packers.
Takes the snap. He's got the quarterback sneak, and he's into the touchdown. The Packers are out in front, and the Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions, NFL champions.
In both the 1968 and the 1969 playoffs, they were eliminated by the Cleveland Browns. The Cowboys were accumulating big game losses and unwanted labels.
We were called the bridesmaids of the NFL, but we had a lot of tags. Can't win the big one, next year champions. By that time, we had started believing a little bit that we couldn't win the big one. It sort of started being a part of us to lose a big game, to get to it and lose it.
In 1970, Dallas lost in Super Bowl V, a game described by one journalist as a series of freak plays, all of which went against the Cowboys.
Off the fingertips of the intended receiver, bounced into the hands of John Mackey, and he goes in for the touchdown.
In that game, Bob Lilly was a veteran defensive tackle, Roger Staubach was a backup quarterback, and Dwayne Thomas was a rookie running back who made a critical rookie mistake.
Dwayne Thomas fumbled that football, and the Baltimore Colts recovered.
Dave Manders kind of recovered, but Billy Ray Smith was screaming their ball. Is kind of that's the story. And they gave the ball to the Colts, and we scored there, and I think the game's put away, but we didn't. It was a horrible loss because we really, I think, were a better football team that day.
The kick is up and is long enough. It is! They say the Cowboys cannot win the big one. Dallas should have been well ahead.
As soon as he kicked the field goal, I threw my helmet 50 yards, which I'm ashamed of, but I did. And the Baltimore Colt rookie, and I don't know his name, brought my helmet back over to me and said, "Here's your helmet, Mr. Lilly." And I said, "Thank you, son." And I kind of felt bad. I felt not that tall.
The grim tally for the Cowboys was this: 5 straight years of playoff football, 0 championships.
It's kind of weird in life. You win, but if you don't win, in football, the Super Bowl, then your season is a failure, which isn't totally fair, but that's life. it was still Dallas cannot win the big game type mentality. So even though we had taken a step closer, it still was, we still had that tag of Dallas can't win the big game.
Do you miss the old days?
I miss football a great deal. Yes, I do.
What do you miss about it? Do you miss the roar of the crowds?
Well, not the roar of the crowd, just the competition and using, I guess, God-given ability. Really, I just miss being a part of football. But I do enjoy the Navy, and I have a big job over here, and I'm going to do that, and that's the most important thing right now.
Roger Staubach was drafted by Dallas in 1964 when he was a junior at the Naval Academy. The Cowboys retained his rights during his 4 years in the service, which included a tour of duty in Vietnam. On his 2-week summer leaves, Staubach would often practice with the Cowboys and dazzle them with his uncanny scrambling ability. He began his career as a backup to Craig Morton, but by the summer of '71, Roger Staubach was given a chance to win the starting job. Having 2 competent quarterbacks should have been a luxury, but head coach Tom Landry turned it into a controversy.
This was a real battle, one-on-one battle. We were actually fighting for the #1 job. Coach couldn't make a decision. He basically said, hey, we have 2 quarterbacks. If he was running a business, trying to pick a CEO, you don't have 2 CEOs, and that was really a mistake.
In 1971, Dallas was the overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl. It was supposed to be their year. But the quarterback battle suddenly became a mere sideshow when one player turned summer camp into a circus.
You have guys on the team that they would have played for anything. Well, I wouldn't have played for anything.
The previous year, running back Dwayne Thomas, number 33, averaged over 5 yards a carry and won the NFL Rookie of the Year. Now, in his second year, Thomas went to team president Tex Schramm and asked for a new contract.
For Rookie of the Year of the NFL, like, you know what I got? $5,000. This player named Don Parrish was a friend of mine. You know what Don Parrish got just for Rookie of the Year on his team? $25,000. He received what my whole salary was, just for Rookie of the Year on his team. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's not, oh, no, he didn't do that. Tex, I saw the check stub. The Cowboys knew I needed money. I mean, my rookie year, I was broke.
When the Cowboys refused to renegotiate, Thomas staged a holdout and then lashed out in the media.
They interviewed Dwayne, and in the paper, we were reading it, and I don't remember the whole article. I just remember he called Tex a liar and a cheat and a hypocrite. Tex said, well, he got 2 out of 3 right, and he called Coach Landry Plastic Man, which none of us knew what that meant. I still don't know what it means.
What was going on with Dwayne was, I didn't really understand it. I mean, there was the beginning of some reluctance to do a few things, and they traded him.
On July 31st, the Cowboys traded their best running back to New England. The first order of business for Patriots head coach John Mazer was to ask Thomas to line up in an I formation. Number 33 was accustomed to an upright position. Mazer preferred a 3-point stance.
So I'm in an up position in the I formation. And Mazer just yells out, get down! I look over to the side. What do you mean? I thought he was talking to someone else. I couldn't believe he was telling me to get down in I formation. Jim Nance, big Jim Nance, is the fullback. Jim Nance's butt is about yay big, okay? Okay, it's like high behind a building. So he's telling me to get down in an I formation, sticking my head right behind Jim Nance's ass. I said, oh, no. So I said, Coach, well, do you know the theory and the philosophy of an I formation, get off the field. I said, fine. Now, I proceeded off the field.
The Patriots petitioned Commissioner Pete Rozelle to reverse the trade. In an unprecedented decision, Rozelle dissolved the deal, citing moral and ethical reasons. 5 days after he was traded, Dwayne Thomas was returned to the Cowboys.
I thought they cut him, or, I didn't know he was traded. And then he came back, and then I found out later, many years later, that he'd actually gone to another team and spent a few days and come back to the Cowboys.
The NFL's most buttoned-down, business-like franchise suddenly had a season-long soap opera on their hands. The Cowboys welcomed him back to the roster, but Dwayne Thomas never allowed himself to be part of the team.
Boy, people knew how treacherous these people were and what extent they would go to. And yet instead come right in front of the public and say, we really love having Dwayne here, and we're doing all that we can within our powers to screw him in his ass, okay?
When the 1971 regular season began, the drama of summer camp seemed far behind. And in the first 2 weeks, the quarterback dilemma was resolving itself. An injury to Roger Staubach early in the second game meant Craig Morton took most of the snaps.
He beat him by 3 steps, and Craig Morton threw as well on that one as he ever thrown in his life.
But in week 3, the Cowboys' hold on first place and Morton's grip on the starting job both slipped away.
Craig started the third game in Dallas against the Redskins. We didn't beat the Redskins, so then I started the next week. So it was a very confusing quarterback situation.
Things got more confusing in that Monday night game against the Giants.
Back to throw, Roger down the middle, caught for touchdown!
Staubach gave the Cowboys a 13-6 lead, but Tom Landry benched him at halftime.
So now I'm thinking, hey, he hasn't been shooting straight with me. That here we are winning a game, and to be taken out. It couldn't have been anything worse in my mind. That was a horrible moment for me. I've never felt so bad.
Morton back to throw. Bob throws a bomb way down for Hayes. Bobby's got it, Bob Hayes.
The Cowboys beat the Giants, but lost 3 games in 5 weeks. And Tom Landry began using his quarterbacks like a baseball manager uses his bullpen. In the first half of the season, the offense had no rhythm because the team had no leader.
I think that was the downer at the start of the season. There wasn't a leader at quarterback. There was 2 of us, and it divided the team.
I did not like an alternating quarterback. I know there must have been a reason that Coach Landry had, but as players don't like that. We like to have somebody over there. If he's not going to cut it, put somebody else in, but let us have somebody to lead us.
I had a lot of admiration for Craig Morton, and but I was in a tough situation. I was 29 years old at the time, and I knew I could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Well, I told Coach Landry, if you don't have the confidence in me, you need to think about having me go somewhere else.
With the quarterback carousel in full spin, the Cowboys added to the carnival atmosphere of the '71 season by staging a mid-season move. Dallas bid farewell to the Cotton Bowl, where they had enjoyed one of the best home field advantages in the league, and ushered in the NFL's most luxurious and modern facility, Texas Stadium. But it wasn't a popular decision.
I didn't look at Texas Stadium as being a big thing. As a matter of fact, I enjoyed the Cotton Bowl better.
They probably didn't want to air condition it, so they had the hole in the roof. There was reasons they gave for the hole in the roof, so God could watch his son coach.
It was a more sterile atmosphere. It was like there just wasn't a lot of shouting and noise.
And it was interesting how the crowd responded after a touchdown or a play. It was like, bravo, bravo. Yeah. And that was the extent of it.
It was the NFL's version of the Taj Mahal, a huge revenue producer for an already wealthy team. Yet the Cowboys still managed to underpay their players.
Jethro Pugh was making $16,500. He was 4 years All-Pro. And I said, well, I wonder if this is just a racial thing, just a black thing. I said, let me find what the white boys are doing. So I talked to Bob, and then Bob said he's making $27,000. I said, $27,000? That's it?
But the 11 Pro Bowls I went to, about the last 8 of them, we always talked about salary. When I negotiated with Tex, and I told him, some of these defensive linemen I met are making $100. And he said, don't you know they're just pulling your leg? He said, they're just trying to make you angry at us. And, I didn't know whether to believe him or not.
For years, the Cowboys' strategy was to underpay big names like Lilly and Starback, and then tell the rest of the team they couldn't make more than the stars.
I said, oh, this is not a racial thing. This is a greed and power thing. This is playing us against one another.
I didn't have an agent, and I'm not saying that's good. I probably wish I would have had an agent, someone that could have got between myself and Tex.
Tex was a willing dealer, but to me, he was someone that you really couldn't trust. Yeah, you really couldn't trust.
Tex's job was not to earn the players' trust. His job was to make money for his owner and build a winner. In Week 6, he also threw a Texas-sized debutante ball for the new stadium, and former President Lyndon Baines Johnson was on the guest list. The game turned into a coming-out party for Bob Lilly and the Cowboys, who seemed revitalized after their slow start. The 44-21 victory over New England gave the Cowboys a 4-2 record, and for the first time all season, Roger Staubach played every meaningful minute of a game.
So now we're really in there's everybody's picking sides, some people on Roger, some people on Craig. That game definitely got some people on my side. I really thought maybe I was in the lead.
It was now Week 7 of a 14-game schedule, and the Cowboys still didn't have a number one signal caller. In an effort to resolve the two-headed quarterback situation, Coach Landry made a head-scratching decision.
We're in the team meeting, and Coach Landry announces we're going to have 2 starting quarterbacks against the Bears. I'm going to alternate plays. And, Craig and I kind of looked at each other and said, I just hear, what was that? I hate to question Coach Landry is, again, he's not perfect. He's a little quirky at times. And that didn't make any sense. That just showed the fact that he still hadn't understood that the team was a bit divided at quarterback.
We were getting a lot of penalties because of delay of game. Because the quarterback come in, they'd be shouting on the sideline, he'd look over. It just wasn't... It was distracting. It was very distracting for everybody.
We were beyond the sidelines. We get to play, and it's like 2 ships passing the night. We just go, run out the field. Craig's running off the field, and sometimes we'd probably high-five each other. It was not one of Coach Landry's great moments.
The quarterback experiment failed, or as Sports Illustrated put it that week, the operation was a success, but the patient died. The Cowboys outgained the Bears but lost 23-19 and were now in danger of missing the playoffs.
The circumstances after we lost to the Chicago Bears, we were 4-3, and we were not a healthy 4-3. The Redskins were 6-1. They were on a roll. Unnamed players were saying things in the paper. If you would have been in that atmosphere, you would have bet whatever you could that the Dallas Cowboys had no shot at the rest of the season.
The decision to alternate quarterbacks was a mirror into Landry's coaching soul. To him, football was a game of positions, not a game of people.
He was a player, and he was a very, very bright guy who knew an awful lot about football. But he was not a psychiatrist, and he wasn't a real strong motivator.
It was like a business. You receive your information. There was no pep talks or anything of that.
Knock them down now, okay? Knock your outside men down. Knock your outside men down.
Sometimes Coach tried to overthink football. In training camp, we were out scrimmaging the 49ers, and Coach Landry's over there explaining to me, watch the strong safety. If he's going strong, it's going to be a 31. He walked away, and Brody's there kind of sitting there. He could hear what, and he said, what is he talking about? I said, well, those are the keys we have to read. He said, that's a bunch of bull. Just get back there and throw the football. He said, I don't know how you could put up with that.
It was once said of Tom Landry that he had a computer where his heart should be. But his players knew better. They understood Landry was a byproduct of his era and his life experiences.
We could tell he really cared about us. He didn't show emotion a lot, and I'm sure that went back to the war when he was flying and had 30 missions himself. Had people all around him dying in airplanes, and he actually had a crasher to himself. His brother was killed too. I think when you're 19, 20, 21, it's got to be very dramatic, because I know I have kinfolks that fought, and they were about his age, and they were in the Marines, and they were in the Navy, and they lost a lot of comrades, and they don't even talk about it. And they don't, it's like my dad never said, I love you. But he always put his arm around me, and he loved me, but it was sort of unsaid. So that may be part of it.
The quarterback controversy was affecting every aspect of the team. The defense decided it was time to approach Coach Landry, but there were no volunteers.
We voted Leroy Jordan the opportunity to present our feelings to Coach Landry, that we wanted one quarterback, one leader, either one, just give us a quarterback.
On the brink of a lost year, Tom Landry listened to his players and made the decision that launched an American hero and saved a Super Bowl season.
We'll go with Staubach as our quarterback. I think it's Rodgers' time to make his move if he's going to make it. I feel I'm confident he can do it, or else I wouldn't have picked him.
When he announced I was a starting quarterback, it changed my life. That was a kind of a whole new season starting, and we had a team meeting too, and it was a great team meeting.
Real emotional, and where players got up and really were hot.
Hey, this season isn't over. We still have 7 games to go, and
if they get in the goal line, it's over somebody's dead body. Otherwise, they don't get in there. We weren't giving it all we had, and from that point on, we did.
With a 4-3 record, the Dallas Cowboys faced a critical division showdown with St. Louis. The game was also notable for the matchup of 2 future Hall of Famers, defensive tackle Bob Lilly and Cardinals rookie guard Dan Deerdorf.
Larry Cole, my teammate, thought that he had played against Deerdorf in college. And so he told me all week, he said, no, you don't worry about him. He's just a fat guy. He won't be able to block you. And so whenever they came out, I was looking down there to see what he looked like, and he didn't look like a little fat boy to me. He looked like a big, strong guy. And I said, Larry, are you sure that's the guy? And he said, where is he? I said, he's right down there. And he said, it doesn't look like the guy I played against. But I think I taught him a few lessons after that.
Despite his initial apprehension, Lilly overpowered Deerdorf in a classic veteran mismatch, and the defense held St. Louis to 1 touchdown. In a game they could not afford to lose, Dallas trailed 10-3 at halftime. But Landry showed faith in Staubach, and that faith was rewarded.
I knew when he said I was a starting quarterback that I wouldn't be pulled. I mean, it was a whole different feeling. When he announced I was a starting quarterback, he was going to stick with me. This was my season now. This was my team.
Staubach's brilliant second half was the Cowboys' first step on the road to the Super Bowl.
Rolling back at Staubach, looking, firing down the middle, touchdown for Dallas.
Late in the 4th quarter, with the score tied, Dallas knew their season was at stake. The legs of Dwayne Thomas and the arm of Roger Staubach got the Cowboys in field goal range, but it was a foot that decided the game.
And we had a new kicker named Tony Fritsch. He was a kicker they found on a kicking caravan in Austria. He was a soccer player and a mechanic. He worked for Mercedes. Tony was funny as he could be, but he didn't understand a word that year. I mean, nothing. We finally got down to the last part of the game. Larry Stallings of the Cardinals said, hey, Fritz, you can't kick the ball. You don't know how to kick the ball. You're not from here. You've never kicked in a game. And we were all laughing about it. We all said, save your breath, buddy. He can't understand a word you're saying. And we all cracked up.
And now we're going to see Herr Fritsch, the Austrian. Snap, kick is up. This one is good. The Cowboys lead 16-13.
We believed in ourselves more than we'd ever done at any time during that season, and we got on a roll.
The Cowboys never lost another game that season. Secure in his role as starter, Roger Staubach now looked over his shoulder at defenders, not at Tom Landry. Staubach was the NFL's top-rated passer.
The longest pass play of the year for Roger Staubach, 51 yards.
Dwayne Thomas led the league in touchdowns.
He picks it off to Thomas, one-handed catch to the 50, to the 10, to the 5. Thomas scores! Great catch, tremendous run.
Most of the games that we won, we knew we were going to win. You know, and that's a great feeling. You know, where you know that you know that you know.
The Cowboys always knew they were good. In the second half of the 71 season, they found out they were great. Dallas won their final 6 games of the regular season by an average of 20 points. Their anchor was Bob Lilly, number 74, a man who never missed a regular season game in 14 professional seasons.
You know, I don't know of any other player where we were watching film in his own teammates, but it'd be oohing and aahing with his quickness and his strength. He was something special. I mean, he was the very best defensive lineman in the National Football League.
If they scored, they were going to have to crawl over dead bodies. That's how we felt. That may be the ingredient we lacked some of those prior years. We were just mentally there. We finally hit a ride. We were in a real tough mental state.
Dwayne Thomas's mental state was always a topic of conversation that season. He never felt part of the team, but he was always a big part of the game plan.
Dwayne Thomas gave everything he had. He blocked hard, he ran hard, he played hard, and he was very smart. Dwayne rarely made a mistake.
I got the opportunity to play 5 or 6 years against Jim Brown, and I just had visions of Jim Brown coming back to life, you know, because Dwayne, he had those same moves, the ones, you know, you think you have him and he just wiggles out of it, or he gives you a limp leg. He could really go off tackle, about as good as I ever saw, and start kneading his way through the linebackers in the secondary. Just almost like music. In fact, I can see it right now.
Some players do their talking on the field. Dwayne Thomas didn't talk at all. After he returned that summer from his 5-day trade to New England, Thomas decided not to talk to the media or his teammates.
He made a decision not to speak to anybody. I mean, one guy asked him how he was feeling. He said, "Are you a doctor?" I mean, these are what he replied to us when we asked him questions. So, personally, I just always, every day, made it a point to say, "Hi, Dwayne. Hi, Dwayne. How are you? Good to see you." Something like that. Just that's what I did. And every once in a while, he'd just have a little smile. That was it. Never said a word. And I do know that Dwayne, when he came off the field, everybody would pat him on the back and tell him, "Great run." And that was it. I don't recall that he ever acknowledged it. I think he just sat down, put his head down, and that was it until he had to go back out.
He kind of got away with some things that you would think that Coach Landry, but he didn't. He really didn't break the rules. I mean, he didn't come late to meetings. He wasn't late to practice.
I didn't come in with an attitude of disruption. However, when I exposed my true personality, it was disruptive to other personalities on the team, but it was not disruptive to the performance of the team.
One Cowboy in particular bore the brunt of Thomas's peculiar personality. Backup running back Dan Reeves shared a position with Thomas, but rarely shared a civil moment.
Dan was a player coach at that particular point in time, and so he was calling roll. Now, we down to the regular team here. And he opens his roll book up, Jethro, Pugh, Bob Lilly, Tom Stensick, and he goes on, and then he gets to Dwayne. Dwayne. Don't you see me? And he just kept going over and over, like some nincompoop. And I'm sitting up there, I mean, how dumb can you be?
Jordan here, Pugh here, so forth. And he might go, or something. A little bit of rebellion there, I know, but we would always look at him and shake our head. But I'll tell you, get him on the football field,
With an 11-3 record, the Dallas Cowboys made the postseason for the 7th straight year. Since 1965, Dallas had experienced paradise in the regular season, but pure hell in the playoffs. This year was different.
Being on the roll that we were now a new team. We were so determined that I just, looking back on it, we were going to beat the Vikings in Minnesota.
In the divisional playoff, the Cowboys left Minnesota with an efficient 20-12 victory.
High formation, the gift to Thomas, Wayne to the 10, to the 5, Thomas scores for the Cowboys! Thomas, 13 and a half yards for a touchdown!
In the championship game, Lilly, Starback, and Thomas performed at their peak when it mattered most.
Rudy hands off to Willard, and before we could say it, Lilly had Willard tangled down in his legs back at the 34.
Here's one of the great original Cowboys.
Back to throw is Staubach. He waits, he runs to his left. He pursued all the way back to the 5-yard line, coming back to the 10. Back off to his right, gets a block from Mander. Throws the ball downfield to Reeves from the 35. Then he moves out to the 40, and it's a first down at the 40-yard line of Dallas. Third and goal at the 2. 9:31 remaining. Staubach pitches off to Thomas around left. There goes Wade. Touchdown! There it is. The Cowboys are the champions. The Cowboys will go to the Super Bowl.
It was a big win, but the mission hadn't been accomplished. Even though we had taken a step, we still had that tag of Dallas can't win the big game. And the only way to get the monkey off our back was to win it all.
The Cowboys never had trouble getting to the big games. Winning them was always the problem. In Super Bowl VI, they faced an up-and-coming team, the Miami Dolphins.
I think their main catalyst in the defense is their linebacker. Bonaconte's all over the field. And I think this is probably one reason why they've done so well. They're obviously a good defensive team, or they wouldn't be where they are.
Our basic thought is naturally we have to contain the running game, a great running game of the Dallas Cowboys. They have Calvin Hill and Dwayne Thomas and Walt Garrison, and anytime you have three great running backs like that, and a lot of publicity is not given to Walt Garrison because of Dwayne Thomas and Calvin Hill, then you have to expect that they're going to come out and try to establish their running game against us.
The Miami Dolphins defense was built on speed and pursuit, and those traits were personified by Nick Bonaconte, their middle linebacker. The Cowboys' strategy was to take his best assets and convert them into liabilities.
He's tough, he's strong, he's got great recognition and great lateral movement. He'll really go after the play. Therefore, we have to control him.
Tom was always talking about Nick Bonaconte. Oh, man, look, this white boy can't be that great. Yeah.
The film work paid off. Dwayne Thomas led the Cowboys with 95 yards rushing. As a team, they piled up a record 252 yards on the ground. The Cowboys disguised their runs and had Bonacante, number 85, going the wrong way all day.
The ball would start this way, the defense would start pursuing, and then the ball carrier would cut back, and our offensive linemen would literally shove their linemen the wrong way. It was just incredible to watch how really a game plan could come together.
At the 3, pitch out to Thomas. Dwayne cuts inside the 5 with a throw and a touchdown for Dwayne Thomas. Staubach drops back to pass, sets up, pass to in, throw, touchdown! It's the hammer, Mike Ditka.
Dallas moved the ball effortlessly and gave ground reluctantly. Miami managed 3 points. For the only time in Super Bowl history, a team was held without a touchdown. For Bob Lilly, the Cowboy who had endured the most hardship, it was his finest hour. Number 74 authored the game's signature play.
Long count by Gracie, goes back to pass. Looking straight, back to the 20-yard line. Still pace, back to the 15. Still being chased to the 10. He's got him. What a chase by Bob Lilly.
I finally caught Bob because he made a turn my way. It was a huge, I cannot even begin to tell you. It was relief, like Rolaids, or spelled R-E-L-I-E-F.
It just sent a message, and Bob was probably the most frustrated defensive guy the year before when we lost to Baltimore. I still see him throwing his helmet on the ground and bouncing up in the air, so he was ready to play that football game.
And Gracie back to throw.
We shut everybody down after that.
Intercepted by Halley down to the 40. Halley down to the 40. Halley down to the 20. Chuck falls down at the 10-yard line, and Halley is so mad.
Coach Shula, when they interviewed him, first thing he said, that is as close as you're going to come to watching a perfect game, what Dallas did today. And I feel the same way.
Early in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys had a 3-touchdown lead. The final minutes were a coronation and a chance for reflection.
Long time. Long time. Long time. Love it.
I'm real proud of you. I was crying for you. I was. So it's good. Well, nothing we could say. I don't want to say anything because I've been there before. Congratulations. Been rested up.
Way to go, Walt. Way to go. Proud for you, boy. So proud for you.
What do you think, Coach?
I think it's pretty nice.
Congratulations. I'm really happy.
For the Cowboys and their fans, the final seconds were counted down like a New Year's celebration. Indeed, the calendar had turned when the clock struck 0. It was finally next year, for the team known as next year's champs.
We had to struggle for so long. 11 years of my life, I struggled with all my teammates, and we finally won it, and it was just like being free. I don't know, I've never felt that way before, that you just felt like you could pretty near fly.
It's a sense of accomplishment that can't, I haven't had anything to replace it yet.
I remember Coach Landry being lifted off the shoulders of the players coming off the field. I still have that picture of him smiling. They asked Walt Garrison, have you ever seen Coach Landry smile? And he said, no, but I was only there 9 years. But Walt was actually the guy lifting him off the field with that smile on his face. So it was kind of a magic time. I didn't anticipate that kind of magic, especially with the way the season started. It's the best feeling I've ever had as an athlete was in that locker room, and the satisfaction of winning that game. We were 4-3, and all of a sudden we were Super Bowl champions.
You think this now takes the onus off that we can't win the big one anymore? I would think so. Well, if it isn't, I don't know how you dispel it, I'll tell you that.
That won't do it.
That was a feeling that you can't buy. You couldn't spend $100 million and buy that feeling. No way. It made me feel wonderful, and it was so wonderful. I just could not believe we finally did it. We finally did it. I think some of the guys that came along after we were winning championships, and they'll never really understand how important that moment was in our lives and how much it still means to us.
Dwayne, how are you?
All right.
My name's Tom Brookshire, and it's nice to talk to you. And behind you is a fellow that used to run over me for a living, the great Jimmy Brown. How are you, Jim?
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Dwayne, you do things with speed, but you never hurry. A lot like the great Jim Brown. You never hurry into a hole. You take your time, make a spin, yet you still outrun people. Are you that fast? Are you that quick, would you say?
Evidently.
All these championships.
Dwayne Thomas's one-word answer was fitting. It seemed nothing lasted very long when it came to the Cowboys' first championship.
The next morning, I got up about 6 o'clock. I woke up because I was so excited, and I went outside in the tent. We'd had a party the night before with Charlie Pride, and our families were all there, and the tent was gone, the chairs were gone, everything was gone except the garbage. And it dawned on me that day was over. I mean, I said, this is headlines today, and it's over. I mean, the biggest day of my whole life is gone. It's gone. I don't know if it'll ever come back again. Sure didn't.
At the next training camp, Dwayne Thomas was even more isolated and insubordinate than the previous year.
You can never tell what he was going to be like in any given day. You might walk by him one day and you say hello to him and he would say hello to you. The next day he'd say, hey, leave me alone. Yeah, don't talk to me.
Before the start of the 1972 regular season, Thomas was traded to the San Diego Chargers.
It was downhill that whole training camp, and finally he had to go. He was a big part of our first Super Bowl, and in '72 it totally fell apart.
Defensive tackle Bob Lilly and quarterback Roger Staubach continued their legendary careers, and both ended up in the Cowboys' Ring of Honor and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In San Diego, Dwayne Thomas continued to self-destruct. He played his last NFL game in 1974. At the age of 27.
I just can't tell people enough how good he was and how much I hated to see a person kind of waste a Hall of Fame career. I've told him that every time I've ever seen him. I said, I fully expected you to be the next Jim Brown, and I did.
Dwayne Thomas was always a crisis waiting to happen. But in 1971, he was also a champion. When it comes to America's team, controversy and success go hand in hand.
Every Super Bowl Dallas has won. Every last one. There's been controversy. The controversy was with Dwayne Thomas. The controversy was with Thomas Henderson. The controversy was with what? Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones. And they won. And Switzer. But the Dallas has never won without controversy. Yeah, different personalities gyrate differently. But the thing is, the one thing I can say, we won.